Right now, as you are watching this, a massive storm system is loading up across the center of this country, and what is about to unfold over the next 72 hours could be one of the most dangerous multi-day severe weather events we have seen all year. We are talking tornadoes, tennis ball-sized hail, straight-line winds strong enough to flip vehicles, and a snowstorm that could dump 3 feet of snow on mountains that desperately need it. Over 30 million Americans are sitting in the direct path of this thing right now. And here is the part that makes this setup truly alarming. The Storm Prediction Center has already issued a rare day 4 severe weather outlook. They almost never do that. When they highlight an area that far in advance, it means the atmospheric signals are screaming that something big is coming. But here is what I promise you. By the time you finish watching this, you are going to know exactly when the storms hit your area, exactly how intense they are going to be, and exactly what you need to do to stay safe. I am going to break down the timing hour by hour, city by city, for over 270 locations across the United States. And if you stick around to the 5-minute mark, I am going to show you the one day this week that has full-blown outbreak potential, the kind of day where we could see multiple strong tornadoes on the ground at the same time. That is coming up. Do not go anywhere. Now, before we dive into the severe weather, let me tell you something that caught my attention this morning. As of right now, the temperature contrast across this country is absolutely staggering. We have Laredo, Texas sitting at 92 degrees. That is full-on summer heat in South Texas. Meanwhile, just 1,500 miles to the north, Marquette, Michigan is sitting at 28 degrees. That is a 64-degree temperature difference across the same country on the same day. And that kind of extreme contrast is exactly the fuel that these storms are going to feed on. Let me show you something else. Right now, Boston is sitting at 40 degrees with fog rolling in. New York City is at 76 degrees and clear. That is a 36-degree difference between two cities that are only about 200 miles apart. When you see temperature gradients that sharp, the atmosphere is telling you something. It is telling you that a major pattern shift is underway, and that pattern shift is the engine driving everything we are about to break down. Now, drop a comment right now telling me where you are watching from. I want to know your city and your state, because throughout this video, I am going to be calling out specific cities, specific timing windows, and specific threats. If I do not get to your city, drop that comment and I will make sure to cover it in the next update. This is important. Your location matters because this storm system is going to behave differently depending on where you are. Let us get right into the jet stream because that is the catalyst for all of it. Right now, the jet stream is about to buckle in a way that we have not seen in weeks. And when I say buckle, I mean it is going to develop multiple deep dips, and each one of those dips is going to trigger a different round of severe weather. Think of the jet stream like a river of fast-moving air about 30,000 feet up in the atmosphere. When it flows in a straight line, weather stays relatively calm. But when it starts to wave and dip, that is when all chaos breaks loose down at the surface. And this week, we are getting not 1, not 2, but at least 3 major dips in the jet stream. Each one is going to bring a new round of dangerous weather. Dip number 1 is already in motion. It is swinging through the Pacific Northwest right now, and it is going to deliver some much-needed snow to the mountains of the west. The Cascades could see 3 to 6 feet of snow from this system. The Sierra Nevada is looking at about 2 feet. And the Rockies, particularly the Wasatch Range in Utah and the mountains of Idaho and Wyoming, could pick up 2 to 3 feet as well. Now, I know what some of you out west are thinking. We desperately need that snow. And you are absolutely right. The snowpack deficit across the western United States has been critical. We have talked about it in previous videos. This storm is not going to erase that deficit, but it is going to put a dent in it, and we will take every inch we can get. But here's where it gets interesting, and this is what I want you to pay close attention to if you live anywhere from Texas to Michigan. That same dip in the jet stream that is bringing snow to the mountains is going to eject out of the Four Corners region and race across the plains. And as it does, it is going to trigger a massive severe weather event that builds day after day after day. Wednesday is day 1, Thursday is day 2, and Friday, that is the day I am most concerned about. Friday has outbreak potential. I am going to show you exactly why in just a moment. Let me walk you through the timeline for Wednesday first, because that is tomorrow and millions of people need to be ready. Wednesday, April 1st. This is a level 3 out of 5 on the severe weather scale, which the Storm Prediction Center calls an enhanced risk. The main threat zone stretches from northwest Texas up through Oklahoma into eastern Kansas and all the way into western Missouri. Cities that need to be on high alert include Oklahoma City, which is currently sitting at 81 degrees with partly sunny skies. Wichita, Kansas at 73 degrees, Kansas City, Missouri at 73 degrees, Abilene, Texas at 82 degrees, and Dallas-Fort Worth, where temperatures right now are running in the low to mid-80s under partly sunny skies. Now, here is the critical timing breakdown for Wednesday, and I want you to write this down if you are in any of these areas. The storms are going to initiate late Wednesday afternoon, roughly between 4 and 7 in the evening Central Time. That is when the dry line, which is the boundary between very dry air to the west and very moist air to the east, starts to fire up individual storm cells. These first storms are going to be what meteorologists call discrete supercells. And that is the most dangerous type of thunderstorm because each one operates independently. Each one has its own rotating updraft, and each one has the potential to produce tornadoes and giant hail. But here is the twist that could catch people off guard. The most dangerous part of this event is not going to happen during the afternoon. It is going to happen after dark. As the sun goes down on Wednesday evening, the storms are going to merge together into a massive line of thunderstorms. And as that line surges eastward, it is going to bring straight-line winds that could gust over 70 miles per hour, hail the size of tennis balls, and even embedded tornadoes hidden within the line. That is the kind of setup where people get caught off guard because they think the storms are winding down, but they are actually intensifying. Now, let me explain why this setup is so potent. There are 3 ingredients coming together at the same time, and when all 3 show up together, it is like putting a match to a powder keg. Ingredient number 1 is moisture. A massive Gulf moisture plume is surging northward right now. That warm, humid air from the Gulf of Mexico is streaming into the plains, and it is providing the raw fuel that thunderstorms need to explode. Think of it like gasoline. The more moisture you have, the more explosive the storms can become. Ingredient number 2 is instability. We are seeing some of the highest CAPE values of the entire year across the threat zone. CAPE stands for Convective Available Potential Energy, and it measures how much energy is available for storms to tap into. Right now, CAPE values are exceeding 3,000 joules per kilogram across parts of the southern plains. To put that in perspective, anything above 2,000 is considered extremely unstable. We are well above that threshold. These storms are going to have rocket fuel. Ingredient number 3 is wind shear. The low-level jet, which is a ribbon of fast-moving air about 3,000 to 5,000 feet above the ground, is cranking up to 45 knots or more. That wind shear is what gives storms their spin. It is what turns a regular thunderstorm into a rotating supercell. And it is what allows hailstones to grow to enormous sizes because the updraft keeps recycling them through the cloud, adding layer after layer of ice until they are big enough to shatter windshields. The Storm Prediction Center has drawn a specific tornado corridor from northwest Texas up through Kansas and into portions of Missouri. That corridor carries a 5% tornado probability, which might not sound like a lot, but in severe weather forecasting, 5% is significant. And within that corridor, they have added the hatched indicator, which means there is a threat for strong tornadoes rated EF2 or higher. An EF2 tornado has winds between 111 and 135 miles per hour. That is strong enough to tear roofs off houses, uproot large trees, and turn heavy objects into projectiles. And here is something that a lot of people do not realize. That hatched area for strong tornadoes extends all the way down to include the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. With over 7 million people in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, that is a massive population center sitting in a zone where strong tornadoes are possible. So if you are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, this is not a night to take lightly. Now, I also want to mention something that concerns me about this particular setup. We have exceptional drought conditions baking the ground across much of West Texas right now. The soil is hard and dry, and when heavy rain from these storms hits that kind of surface, it does not soak in. It runs off immediately. That means we could also have flash flooding risks on top of the severe weather. So if you are in a drought-stricken area and you get heavy rain from these storms, be aware that flash flooding is a real possibility even in areas that have been bone dry for weeks. If you are just joining us, let me catch you up. We are tracking a multi-day severe weather event that starts Wednesday and builds through Friday. Wednesday is a level 3 out of 5 risk with tornadoes, giant hail, and damaging winds across the southern and central plains. But the storm system does not stop there. It reloads. And Thursday brings round 2. Now, before I get into Thursday, let me give you the temperature breakdown across the country right now because these numbers tell the story of what is fueling this entire event. Starting in the south. Houston is at 78 degrees with scattered clouds. San Antonio is at 84 degrees. Austin is at 84 degrees and sunny. These are well above normal temperatures for the end of March, and all that warmth is feeding the moisture plume that these storms are going to tap into. Corpus Christi is at 78 degrees. Brownsville is at 80 degrees. McAllen is at 84 degrees. Laredo, as I mentioned, is the hot spot at 92 degrees. That is the kind of heat you usually do not see until May in South Texas. Moving into the threat zone, Oklahoma City is at 81 degrees. Tulsa is at 82 degrees. Wichita is at 73 degrees. Kansas City is at 73 degrees. These temperatures might not seem extreme, but the dew points behind them are the real story. When you combine 80-degree surface temperatures with high dew points from that Gulf moisture, you get explosive instability. That is exactly what we have across the Midwest. Chicago is at 44 degrees. Indianapolis is at 76 degrees. That is a 32-degree difference between two cities in the same region. That temperature gradient is going to sharpen the frontal boundary that drives Thursday as severe weather. In the Northeast, New York City is at 76 degrees. Philadelphia is at 76 degrees. Washington, D.C. is at 78 degrees. Boston is way down at 40 degrees with fog. That is a 38-degree difference between Washington and Boston, and those two cities are only about 400 miles apart. The Northeast is running warm to the south and cold to the north, and that contrast is going to play a big role in the temperature swing coming later this week. Out west, Los Angeles is at 67 degrees. San Francisco is at 61 degrees. Phoenix is at 90 degrees. Denver is at 53 degrees with clouds. Salt Lake City is at 65 degrees. Portland, Oregon is at 54 degrees. Seattle is at 59 degrees. The West is relatively calm right now, but those mountain snowfall totals I mentioned earlier are going to be significant over the next few days. And in the far north, Bismarck, North Dakota is at 35 degrees. Fargo is at 34 degrees. Minneapolis is at 53 degrees. Duluth is at 37 degrees. Grand Forks is at 30 degrees. These northern plain states are about to get hammered by a major snowstorm that could dump over a foot of snow in some areas. I will get to that in detail shortly. Now, let me get into Thursday because that is when the severe weather threat shifts into the Midwest, and it is going to affect a completely different set of cities Thursday, April 2nd. The same storm system that brought severe weather to the plains on Wednesday is going to accelerate northeast and reload across the Midwest. The risk zone shifts north and east, putting cities like Chicago, Indianapolis, Grand Rapids, Milwaukee, and Springfield, Illinois squarely in the crosshairs. Here is the timing for Thursday. The cold front associated with this system is going to sweep through during the afternoon and evening hours. Storms are going to develop along and ahead of that front, and they are going to organize into a squall line, which is a long, continuous line of thunderstorms. Now, the dynamics for Thursday are a little different than Wednesday. We are not going to have 3,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE. Instead, we are looking at about 1,500 to 2,000 joules per kilogram. That is still plenty of storm fuel. But the key difference on Thursday is the wind shear. The low-level jet is actually going to be stronger on Thursday than it is on Wednesday. And that means even though the storms might not be quite as explosive individually, the organized line of storms is going to pack a serious punch with damaging straight-line winds. My personal forecast is that we could see an upgrade to the risk level for Thursday, particularly from northern Illinois into southwestern Michigan. The Storm Prediction Center currently has this as a slight risk, but with the momentum this system is carrying, I would not be surprised to see it bumped up to an enhanced risk, which is a 3 out of 5, particularly around the Chicago and Grand Rapids areas. The main threats on Thursday are damaging winds, large hail, and a few tornadoes. As the storms form into that organized line, they are going to tap into the stronger winds aloft and drag them down to the surface. Wind gusts of 60 to 70 miles per hour are possible along the leading edge of the squall line. And even after the line passes, there could be embedded rotation capable of producing brief tornadoes. If you are in Chicago, your timing window is roughly Thursday afternoon into Thursday evening. If you are in Indianapolis, the storms arrive slightly earlier, probably mid to late afternoon. If you are in Grand Rapids, Michigan, you are looking at Thursday evening into the overnight hours. And if you are in Milwaukee, the storm should arrive in the late afternoon to early evening time frame. This is the part I have been wanting to get to. This is the day that has me most concerned. And this is the information I promised you at the beginning of this video. Friday, April 3rd. This is the day with outbreak potential. The Storm Prediction Center has already issued a rare day 4 severe weather outlook for Friday, and they are highlighting a 15% severe risk across Missouri, Kansas, and Iowa. That is 4 days in advance. When the Storm Prediction Center puts out a risk area that large, that far ahead, it means the atmospheric setup is exceptionally well defined. The signals are loud and clear. Friday has the potential to be a high-end severe weather day. Here is why Friday stands out from the rest of the week. A brand new upper-level wave is going to dive into the south-central United States. As it does, it is going to generate a rapidly deepening surface low over the plains. That low is going to pull up an incredibly rich moisture plume from the Gulf of Mexico, even richer than what we see on Wednesday. And all of that moisture is going to collide with a sharpening cold front and dry line at the same time. Let me repeat that because it is important. On Friday, we are not just getting a dry line set up like Wednesday. We are getting dry air smashing into warm, moist air from the south and cold air crashing in from the north, all converging at the same time. That triple collision of air masses is what creates the most explosive, severe weather setups. It is the kind of pattern that produces major tornado outbreaks. The Cape values on Friday are expected to surge back above 3,000 joules per kilogram. The wind shear is going to be extraordinary. And here is the key piece. The upper-level low driving this system is expected to go into what meteorologists call a negative tilt. Now let me explain what that means and why it matters. Normally, a trough in the jet stream is oriented from northwest to southeast. That is considered a neutral or positive tilt. But when a trough tilts the other way, from northeast to southwest, that is a negative tilt. And a negative tilt trough is like turbocharging the storm system. All the wind energy gets concentrated and ejected out of the base of the trough, dramatically increasing the wind shear at the surface. That wind shear is what spins up tornadoes. The GFS model is showing this upper-level low spiraling into the Dakotas region with increasing rotation as it goes through the negative tilt process. And all of that rotational energy is going to blast southward and eastward into the primary threat zone. So where is the bullseye for Friday? Based on current data, the most dangerous zone extends from Oklahoma up through Kansas into Iowa and into extreme northwest Missouri. The storms are going to erupt first to the west of the major Texas cities. Dallas, Houston, San Antonio all could see initial storm development. But the strongest storms, the ones with the most tornado potential, are going to be focused from Oklahoma through Kansas and into Iowa, where the wind shear is maximized. The timing for Friday. Storms are expected to start firing up by late Friday morning into the early afternoon across Texas. By 7 in the evening on Friday, the main event is going to be underway across Oklahoma, Kansas, and Missouri. Individual supercells are going to be capable of producing strong tornadoes. And as the evening progresses, those storms could grow and become even more dangerous. Now, I want to give you something that I think will help you visualize just how significant this Friday setup is. The supercell tracking models are already showing potential storm tracks developing to the west of Dallas, moving into Arkansas, and then a separate cluster developing across the main threat zone from Oklahoma through Kansas. The track suggests that multiple supercells could be on the ground simultaneously during the peak heating hours on Friday. That is textbook outbreak territory, but I want to be very clear about something. This is a forecast. Forecasts change. The exact placement of the bullseye could shift north or south by 50 or even 100 miles between now and Friday. What is not going to change is the overall pattern. We are going to have a dangerous, severe weather setup on Friday. The question is not if, but where exactly the worst storms set up. So if you live anywhere in the warm sector, from Texas to Iowa, from Oklahoma to Missouri, you need to be monitoring this closely over the next 48 hours. Do not miss the next section, because I am about to walk you through the massive temperature swing that is coming after this storm system passes through, and it is going to affect everyone from coast to coast. Now let me shift gears and talk about the snowstorm, because while the southern half of the country deals with severe weather, the northern half is about to get buried. Starting Wednesday and continuing through the weekend, a major snowstorm is going to impact the northern plains and upper Midwest. The Dakotas are in the direct path of this system, and widespread snowfall totals of 4 to 6 inches are expected across a large area. But the jackpot totals are going to be much higher than that. A swath of heavy snow is expected to set up to the north of the Twin Cities, across the Brainerd area of Minnesota, and into portions of the Dakotas. In that zone, we could see over a foot of snow. Some isolated areas might even push toward 18 inches, and there is an ice component to this as well. Freezing rain and sleet are expected across parts of the upper peninsula of Michigan, northern Wisconsin, and northern Michigan. Ice accumulations could make travel extremely dangerous in those areas. Let me give you the current temperatures across the northern plains to put this in context. Bismarck, North Dakota is at 35 degrees. Pierre, South Dakota is at 43 degrees. Aberdeen, South Dakota is at 38 degrees. Fargo, North Dakota is at 34 degrees. Grand Forks, North Dakota is at 30 degrees. Minot, North Dakota is at 26 degrees. These are already cold temperatures, and they are about to get even colder behind this system. In the upper Midwest, Duluth is at 37 degrees with overcast skies. International Falls is at 30 degrees. Marquette is at 28 degrees. Escanaba is at 34 degrees. Traverse City is at 35 degrees. Iron Mountain is at 38 degrees. All of these locations are going to see some combination of snow, ice, and bitter cold over the next few days. Meanwhile, in the mountains out west, the snow is already falling in some areas. Bozeman, Montana is reporting light snow right now at 35 degrees. Breckenridge, Colorado is at 32 degrees with clouds. South Lake Tahoe is at 42 degrees with light rain that will transition to snow at higher elevations. Truckee, California is at 39 degrees with drizzle and fog. These mountain locations are going to see significant snowfall accumulations over the next several days. Now, I want to take a few minutes to walk through a comprehensive temperature and weather breakdown for cities across the entire country. This is the section where I want you to listen for your city. And again, if you do not hear your city mentioned, drop a comment and I will make sure to include it in the next update. Let me start in the southeast. Atlanta is at 78 degrees and sunny. Birmingham is at 77 degrees with scattered clouds. Nashville is at 77 degrees with passing clouds. Memphis is at 80 degrees. Chattanooga is at 79 degrees. Charlotte is at 72 degrees. Raleigh is at 75 degrees. Jacksonville, Florida is at 72 degrees. Tampa is at 79 degrees. Miami is at 75 degrees. Orlando is at 74 degrees. Savannah is at 69 degrees. Charleston, South Carolina is at 68 degrees. Columbia, South Carolina is at 72 degrees. Knoxville is at 76 degrees. Little Rock is at 79 degrees. Baton Rouge is at 78 degrees. New Orleans is at 76 degrees. Mobile is at 73 degrees. Montgomery is at 75 degrees. Tallahassee is at 77 degrees. Fort Myers is at 78 degrees. St. Petersburg is at 81 degrees. Pensacola is at 71 degrees. The southeast is running warm across the board. These temperatures are above normal for this time of year, and all that warmth is contributing to the moisture plume feeding the severe weather threat. If you are in the southeast, your main concern this week is going to be some passing showers and storms as the front eventually works through, but the most dangerous weather stays to your west and north. Moving to the mid-Atlantic and northeast, Washington, D.C. is at 78 degrees with passing clouds. Baltimore is at 79 degrees. Philadelphia is at 76 degrees. New York City is at 76 degrees. Newark is at 76 degrees. Trenton is at 75 degrees. Hartford is at 67 degrees. Providence is at 54 degrees. Boston is at 40 degrees with fog. Portland, Maine is at 38 degrees with fog. Burlington, Vermont is at 38 degrees. Albany is at 63 degrees with thunderstorms and fog right now. Syracuse is at 62 degrees with light rain and fog. Buffalo is at 57 degrees with light rain and fog. Did you catch that contrast? Washington, D.C. at 78 degrees. Boston at 40 degrees. That is a 38-degree spread across the Northeast. And that sharp gradient is going to play a big role when the cold front finally pushes through after Easter. The warm side of the Northeast is going to enjoy temperatures 20 to 25 degrees above normal heading into Easter Sunday. But then, post-Easter, Monday, April 6th, that cold front slams through and temperatures are going to crater. I will get to those numbers in just a moment. In the Ohio Valley and Great Lakes region, Cleveland is currently at 59 degrees with thunderstorms and fog. That is right, Cleveland is already getting hit with thunderstorms today. Columbus is at 76 degrees. Cincinnati is at 77 degrees. Pittsburgh is at 74 degrees. Detroit is at 61 degrees. Grand Rapids is at 49 degrees. Fort Wayne is at 61 degrees with strong thunderstorms and fog. Indianapolis is at 76 degrees. Louisville is at 78 degrees. Dayton is at 76 degrees. Toledo is at 64 degrees with clouds. Evansville is at 79 degrees. South Bend is at 54 degrees with fog. If you are in the Ohio Valley or Great Lakes, you are right in the transition zone. Some of you are already experiencing thunderstorms today. Thursday is going to be your big day for the severe weather threat as that squall line pushes through. Make sure your phone alerts are on. Make sure you have a plan. Let me cover the Plains and Midwest now, the epicenter of this multi-day event. Oklahoma City is at 81 degrees, Tulsa is at 82 degrees, Wichita is at 73 degrees, Kansas City is at 73 degrees, Des Moines is at 59 degrees, Omaha is at 58 degrees, Lincoln is at 58 degrees, Topeka is at 69 degrees, Springfield, Missouri is at 76 degrees, St. Louis is at 74 degrees, Joplin is at 79 degrees, Amarillo is at 67 degrees, Lubbock is at 87 degrees, Midland is at 90 degrees, Odessa is at 89 degrees, Fort Smith is at 84 degrees, Wichita Falls is at 82 degrees. Look at those numbers from Lubbock, Midland, and Odessa. 87, 90, 89 degrees. Those are blazing hot temperatures for the last day of March. And all of that heat is supercharging the instability across the region. When storms erupt into an atmosphere that warm and moist, they grow explosively. Now the Mountain West and Pacific Northwest. Denver is at 53 degrees with clouds. Colorado Springs is at 51 degrees. Boulder is at 52 degrees. Albuquerque is at 73 degrees. Phoenix is at 90 degrees. Tucson is at 85 degrees. Las Vegas is at 78 degrees. Salt Lake City is at 65 degrees. Boise is at 57 degrees. Missoula is at 46 degrees. Billings is at 33 degrees. Helena is at 42 degrees. Spokane is at 51 degrees. Seattle is at 59 degrees. Portland, Oregon is at 54 degrees. Eugene is at 59 degrees. The West is in relatively calm shape right now, but that mountain snow I mentioned is going to be significant. If you are planning any mountain travel across the Cascades, Sierra Nevada, or Rockies this week, be prepared for winter driving conditions. Chain controls could go into effect in multiple mountain passes. California, Los Angeles is at 67 degrees, San Francisco is at 61 degrees, San Diego is at 66 degrees, Sacramento is at 58 degrees with light rain, Fresno is at 69 degrees, Bakersfield is at 72 degrees, San Jose is at 63 degrees, Oakland is at 61 degrees with light rain. Much of Northern California is seeing some light rain right now from that first wave pushing through, and more precipitation is on the way through the middle of the week. Now, I am going to cover two more regions, and then I want to get back to the severe weather discussion because there is one more critical piece I need to show you. Texas, the Lone Star State, is going to be right in the thick of this. Dallas is at 84 degrees. Fort Worth is at 82 degrees. Houston is at 78 degrees. San Antonio is at 84 degrees. Austin is at 84 degrees. El Paso is at 83 degrees. Corpus Christi is at 78 degrees. Lubbock is at 87 degrees. Waco is at 85 degrees. Tyler is at 83 degrees. Texarkana is at 84 degrees. Laredo is at 92 degrees. Brownsville is at 80 degrees. Texans, listen carefully. Wednesday evening is when the storms first begin to fire along the dry line across northwest Texas. If you are in Abilene, if you are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, if you are anywhere along that dry line corridor, your window of highest risk is Wednesday afternoon through the overnight hours. And then on Friday, the southern extent of the outbreak potential could reach back into Texas as well. This is a multi-day threat for the Lone Star State, Florida, and the Gulf Coast. Miami is at 75 degrees, Tampa is at 79 degrees, Orlando is at 74 degrees, Jacksonville is at 72 degrees, Fort Lauderdale is at 75 degrees, St. Petersburg is at 81 degrees, Naples is at 80 degrees, Pensacola is at 71 degrees, Mobile is at 73 degrees, Biloxi is at 74 degrees, Gulfport is at 73 degrees, New Orleans is at 76 degrees. Florida and the Gulf Coast, you are on the warm side of this pattern. Your main role in this event is providing the moisture that fuels the storms further north. But as the front eventually pushes through later in the week, you could see some storms as well. Nothing like what the plains are facing, but stay aware. Alaska. Anchorage is at 32 degrees. Fairbanks is at 26 degrees. Juneau is at 38 degrees. Utqiagvik is at 4 degrees. Point Hope is at 24 degrees. Nome is at 20 degrees. Kodiak is at 39 degrees. Alaska is in its own world right now, with temperatures ranging from single digits on the north slope to the upper 30s in the southeast panhandle. Hawaii. Honolulu is at 78 degrees. Hilo is at 76 degrees. Kailua Kona is at 83 degrees. Maui is at 77 degrees. Hawaii is enjoying typical tropical conditions with passing clouds and scattered showers. Now let me get back to the critical forecast, because there is a massive temperature swing coming, and it is going to affect tens of millions of people. Here is what the models are showing for the days after the severe weather event. After the storm system passes through, a massive cold front is going to slam across the eastern two-thirds of the country, and behind that front, Arctic air is going to pour southward, Friday, April 3rd. Behind the severe weather system, temperatures across the Dakotas are going to plunge 15 to 20 degrees below normal. That means highs in the teens and 20s for areas that were just in the 30s and 40s. The cold is going to be brutal, and it is going to come with that heavy snow I mentioned earlier. But here's the wild part. While the Dakotas freeze, the Northeast is going to be blazing hot for Easter Sunday. Temperatures 20 to 25 degrees above normal are expected from Washington, D.C. to New York City. We could see temperatures pushing into the mid-80s across the mid-Atlantic. Easter Sunday picnics and egg hunts are going to feel like summer. But do not get too comfortable with that warmth, because Monday, April 6th, everything changes. That cold front slams through the East Coast, and all the cold air that has been building behind the front starts pouring in. By Monday and into Tuesday, temperatures across the central part of the country could be 30 to 40 degrees colder than Easter Sunday. That cold is going to push all the way down into Mexico. And then, just when the east is freezing, the west starts warming up again. A massive heat dome is going to rebuild over the west coast later next week. That is going to bring above normal temperatures back to California, the Pacific Northwest, and the desert Southwest. It is a complete pattern flip-flop, and it is going to happen fast. This back and forth between extremes is something we have been seeing a lot this year. The jet stream pattern is highly amplified, meaning the dips and ridges are exaggerated. When the jet stream is amplified like this, you get big swings from warm to cold and back again. And each swing brings its own set of weather hazards, whether that is severe weather on the warm side or snow and ice on the cold side. Now, I want to do a quick recap of the multi-day severe weather timeline, because this is information that could save lives, and I want to make sure everyone is clear on the timing. Wednesday, April 1st. Enhanced risk, level 3 out of 5. The threat zone runs from northwest Texas through Oklahoma, eastern Kansas, and into western Missouri. Storms fire between 4 and 7 in the evening Central Time. The most dangerous period is after dark, as storms merge into a line. Threats include tornadoes, including potentially strong tornadoes rated EF2 or higher, tennis ball-sized hail, and damaging straight-line winds. Flash flooding is also possible in drought-stricken areas. Thursday, April 2nd. The severe weather threat shifts north and east into Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, and Wisconsin. The timing is Thursday afternoon through the overnight hours. The primary threats are damaging winds from an organized squall line, large hail, and a few tornadoes. Chicago, Indianapolis, Grand Rapids, and Milwaukee are all in the risk zone. This system is packing serious momentum and could be upgraded to an enhanced risk. Friday, April 3rd. This is the big one. Outbreak potential. The Storm Prediction Center has already issued a Rare Day 4 outlook highlighting a 15% severe risk across Missouri, Kansas, and Iowa. CAPE values surging above 3,000 joules per kilogram. The upper level low going negative tilt, which turbocharges the wind shear. The primary threat zone extends from Oklahoma through Kansas into Iowa and into northwest Missouri. Storms could also develop across Texas and Arkansas. All hazards are on the table, including strong tornadoes, giant hail, and destructive winds. Now, for those of you watching from areas that are not in the direct severe weather threat zone, I still want you to stay informed. Weather patterns are fluid. The exact placement of these threat zones could shift, and even areas outside the main risk zones could see strong storms. The best thing you can do is make sure you have a way to receive weather warnings. That means having a weather radio, having your phone alerts turned on, and having a plan for where you would go if a tornado warning is issued for your area. Let me touch on a few more cities that I have not mentioned yet. If you are in Shreveport, Louisiana, you are at 81 degrees right now, and you could see some storms as this system moves through. If you are in Little Rock, Arkansas at 79 degrees, you are on the eastern edge of the Wednesday threat zone and could also see storms on Thursday and Friday. If you are in Springfield, Missouri at 76 degrees, you are right in the bullseye for Thursday and Friday. If you are in Columbia, Missouri at 77 degrees, same story. If you are in Topeka, Kansas at 69 degrees, Friday is your primary day of concern. If you are in Des Moines, Iowa at 59 degrees, Friday is the day to watch. For the smaller cities and towns, Emporia, Kansas is at 71 degrees. Salina, Kansas is at 66 degrees. Dodge City is at 59 degrees. Hayes, Kansas is at 59 degrees. Junction City is at 69 degrees. Manhattan, Kansas is at 68 degrees. All of these cities are in the heart of the Friday threat zone. In Oklahoma, Stillwater is at 82 degrees. Norman is at 81 degrees. Enid is at 81 degrees. Lawton is at 81 degrees. Altus is at 82 degrees with thunder showers already happening. McAllister is at 81 degrees. These Oklahoma cities need to be ready for both Wednesday and Friday. In Missouri, Jefferson City is at 77 degrees, Columbia is at 77 degrees, Sedalia is at 76 degrees, Harrisonville is at 72 degrees, St. Joseph is at 69 degrees. All of these are in the Friday threat zone in Iowa. Iowa City is at 64 degrees, Cedar Rapids is at 60 degrees, Waterloo is at 56 degrees, Sioux City is at 52 degrees, Mason City is at 50 degrees. These Iowa cities are going to be watching Friday closely. In Illinois, Bloomington is at 68 degrees, Champaign is at 76 degrees, Springfield is at 77 degrees, Peoria is at 68 degrees, Rockford is at 50 degrees, DeKalb is at 47 degrees. The central and northern Illinois corridor is in the Thursday threat zone, and parts of western Illinois could also be affected on Friday. In Indiana, Fort Wayne is at 61 degrees with strong thunderstorms. Terre Haute is at 79 degrees. Bloomington is at 77 degrees. Muncie is at 77 degrees. Kokomo is at 74 degrees. Indiana is primarily in the Thursday threat zone. In Michigan, Detroit is at 61 degrees, Grand Rapids is at 49 degrees, Kalamazoo is at 54 degrees, Lansing is at 57 degrees, Flint is at 55 degrees, Ann Arbor is at 64 degrees, Michigan is in the Thursday evening and overnight threat zone. Before I move on, let me cover a few more important regions because I know many of you are watching from areas I have not gotten to yet. The Carolinas and Virginia. Richmond, Virginia is at 75 degrees. Virginia Beach is at 73 degrees, Norfolk is at 75 degrees, Roanoke is at 76 degrees, Charlottesville is at 76 degrees, Fredericksburg is at 79 degrees, Wilmington, North Carolina is at 68 degrees, Asheville is at 71 degrees, Greenville, South Carolina is at 75 degrees, Spartanburg is at 72 degrees, Fayetteville, North Carolina is at 73 degrees. Durham is at 75 degrees. The Carolinas and Virginia are sitting in mild to warm conditions right now, and while you are not in the primary severe weather threat zone, you could see some thunderstorms as the overall pattern shifts later this week. Your bigger story is going to be the temperature roller coaster. You are enjoying warm weather now, but after Easter, that cold front is going to send your temperatures plummeting. The Tennessee Valley. Chattanooga is at 79 degrees with scattered clouds. Huntsville is at 73 degrees. Murfreesboro is at 76 degrees, Clarksville is at 76 degrees, Cookeville is at 73 degrees, Johnson City area, including Kingsport, is at 73 degrees. The Tennessee Valley is on the southern edge of the Thursday severe weather threat. You may not see the strongest storms, but any storms that develop along the front could still produce gusty winds and small hail. Stay alert during the Thursday afternoon and evening time frame. Georgia and Alabama. Macon, Georgia is at 69 degrees. Columbus, Georgia is at 70 degrees with thunder showers already moving through. Augusta is at 75 degrees. Athens is at 75 degrees. Dothan, Alabama is at 67 degrees. Tuscaloosa is at 78 degrees. Florence, Alabama is at 77 degrees. The Anniston and Talladega area is at 77 degrees. Some of you in West Alabama and Northwest Georgia are seeing thunderstorms right now. Auburn, Alabama is reporting thunder showers at 71 degrees. Columbus, Georgia is also getting hit. These storms today are a preview of the instability in the atmosphere, but the main event remains Wednesday through Friday across the plains and Midwest, Mississippi and Louisiana. Jackson, Mississippi is at 78 degrees. Hattiesburg is at 77 degrees. Tupelo is at 78 degrees. Vicksburg is at 77 degrees. Shreveport, Louisiana is at 81 degrees. Lake Charles is at 77 degrees. Lafayette is at 77 degrees. Alexandria is at 81 degrees. Mississippi and Louisiana, you are feeding the beast. All that Gulf moisture streaming over your states is the fuel supply for the storms hitting the plains. You could see some storms yourselves, particularly on the southern edge of the Wednesday and Friday setups. Now let me cover the northern tier states in more detail because the snowstorm threat is just as serious as the severe weather. In Minnesota, Minneapolis is at 53 degrees with scattered clouds. St. Paul is at 45 degrees. Rochester is at 51 degrees. Duluth is at 37 degrees with overcast skies. Mankato is at 43 degrees. The Brainerd area is going to be ground zero for the heaviest snow. The Twin Cities could see several inches of accumulation, but the heaviest band is expected to set up to the north. If you are north of the Twin Cities, you could be looking at a foot or more of snow by the time this system wraps up. Travel along Interstate 94 and Interstate 35 could become extremely dangerous from Wednesday night through Friday. Stock up on supplies now. In Wisconsin, Milwaukee is at 43 degrees. Madison is at 55 degrees. Green Bay is at 43 degrees. Eau Claire is at 49 degrees. La Crosse is at 54 degrees. Wausau is at 43 degrees. Appleton is at 52 degrees. Sheboygan is at 45 degrees. Racine is at 40 degrees. Wisconsin, you are caught between two threats. The southern part of the state is in the Thursday severe weather threat zone, while the northern part could see significant snow and ice from the winter storm. Milwaukee and Madison need to watch for the squall line Thursday afternoon and evening. Meanwhile, Wausau, Rhinelander, and the Northwoods could see heavy snow and ice accumulation in North Dakota. Bismarck is at 35 degrees. Fargo is at 34 degrees. Grand Forks is at 30 degrees. Minot is at 26 degrees. Williston is at 28 degrees. Dickinson is at 34 degrees. North Dakota, you are going to take the full brunt of this snowstorm. Widespread 4 to 6 inches is the baseline, but the heavy snow band could drop over a foot in your state. Wind chills are going to be brutal behind the system. If you have livestock, make sure they have shelter. If you need to travel, do it before Wednesday night. In South Dakota, Sioux Falls is at 42 degrees. Rapid City is at 39 degrees. Pierre is at 43 degrees. Brookings is at 37 degrees. Aberdeen is at 38 degrees. Yankton is at 47 degrees. South Dakota is in a similar situation to North Dakota. Heavy snow is coming, potentially over a foot in some spots. The Black Hills could see significant accumulation as well. Be prepared for power outages if heavy wet snow brings down tree limbs and power lines in Nebraska. Omaha is at 58 degrees. Lincoln is at 58 degrees. Grand Island is at 55 degrees. North Platte is at 49 degrees. Kearney is at 52 degrees. Scottsbluff is at 49 degrees. Nebraska sits right on the boundary between the severe weather to the south and the winter storm to the north. The Panhandle could see some snow, while eastern Nebraska is more in the severe weather threat zone for Wednesday and Friday. Now, there are a few things I want to highlight that people often overlook during multi-day severe weather events like this. First, storm fatigue. When you have severe weather threats on consecutive days, people tend to become complacent by day 2 or day 3. They survived day 1. Nothing happened in their immediate area, so they let their guard down. Do not do that. Each day of this event has its own unique threats, and in fact, Friday, the last day, is likely to be the most dangerous day of all. Second, nighttime tornadoes. The Wednesday event is expected to produce its most dangerous storms after dark. Nighttime tornadoes are significantly more deadly than daytime tornadoes because people are asleep and not paying attention. If you are in the Wednesday threat zone, do not go to bed without making sure you have a way to receive warnings. A weather radio with an alert function that will wake you up is the best option. Third, hail damage preparation. If you have vehicles that you park outside and you are in the threat zone, consider moving them into a garage or under a covered structure before the storms arrive. Tennis ball-sized hail, which is roughly 2.5 inches in diameter, is more than capable of totaling a vehicle. It can shatter every window, dent every panel, and destroy the roof. Even golf ball-sized hail, which is about 1 3/4 inches, can cause thousands of dollars in damage. If you have the option to protect your vehicles, do it now before the storms arrive. Fourth, power outages. With strong winds expected across multiple states over multiple days, power outages are almost guaranteed. Make sure your phones are charged. Have flashlights and batteries ready. If you have medications that require refrigeration, have a plan. Never run a generator indoors or in an attached garage. Fifth, flash flooding. I mentioned this earlier for West Texas, but it applies more broadly. When storms are moving quickly and dumping heavy rain, flash flooding can happen anywhere, especially in urban areas where drainage systems can be overwhelmed. If you encounter flooded roadways, turn around. Just 6 inches of fast-moving water can knock you off your feet. 12 inches can float a vehicle. 2 feet of rushing water can carry away most vehicles, including trucks and SUVs. Let me also give you a quick update on the cities in the western half of the country that are going to be dealing with that mountain snow. In Colorado, Denver is at 53 degrees. Colorado Springs is at 51 degrees. Boulder is at 52 degrees, Fort Collins is at 51 degrees, Pueblo is at 57 degrees, Grand Junction is at 70 degrees, Aspen is at 50 degrees, Breckenridge is at 32 degrees, Telluride is at 46 degrees. The Front Range cities are going to see some rain and possibly wet snow mixing in, but the significant accumulations are going to be in the mountains. If you are heading to ski country this week, you are in for a treat. 2 to 3 feet of fresh powder is possible in the high country in Utah. Salt Lake City is at 65 degrees, Provo is at 65 degrees, St. George is at 73 degrees, Moab is at 70 degrees. The Wasatch Range is going to be a major beneficiary of this system. 2 to 3 feet of snow could fall in the Wasatch, which is great news for the snowpack. In Montana, Billings is at 33 degrees with overcast skies. Missoula is at 46 degrees. Great Falls is at 45 degrees. Helena is at 42 degrees, Bozeman is at 35 degrees with light snow already falling, Kalispell is at 46 degrees. Montana is going to see widespread snow across the western half of the state. Mountain passes could become treacherous. Check road conditions before traveling. In Idaho, Boise is at 57 degrees, Idaho Falls is at 54 degrees, Pocatello is at 48 degrees with light rain, Coeur d'Alene is at 50 degrees. The mountains of central Idaho are going to get buried. 2 to 3 feet of snow is possible in the Sawtooth and Bitterroot Ranges in Wyoming. Casper is at 53 degrees, Cheyenne is at 43 degrees, Jackson is at 47 degrees, Riverton is at 55 degrees. The Wind River Range and the Tetons are going to see major snowfall. Now, I want to wrap up with something important, but first, let me cover a few more areas because I promised you over 270 cities. In Connecticut, Hartford is at 67 degrees and clear. New Haven is at 57 degrees and clear. Stamford is at 73 degrees. Bridgeport is at 59 degrees. Waterbury is at 66 degrees. Danbury is at 73 degrees. Connecticut is on the warm side of the temperature gradient right now, but you are going to feel the cold front as effects by early next week. In Massachusetts, Boston is at 40 degrees with fog. Worcester is at 48 degrees. Springfield is at 71 degrees. Cambridge is at 40 degrees with fog. Lowell is at 41 degrees with fog. New Bedford is at 49 degrees. Cape Cod, including Barnstable, is at 48 degrees. Nantucket is at 46 degrees with fog. The fog across eastern Massachusetts is going to be a factor for coastal areas for the next day or two. Inland areas like Springfield are much warmer, showing that big temperature contrast within a single state. In New Hampshire and Vermont, Manchester, New Hampshire is at 41 degrees with fog. Concord is at 44 degrees. Burlington, Vermont is at 38 degrees. Montpelier is at 46 degrees with light rain and fog. Rutland is at 55 degrees with rain and fog. Northern New England is getting hit with some light rain and fog right now, and the higher elevations could see some mixed precipitation. Your temperatures are going to swing dramatically after Easter as well. In New Jersey, Newark is at 76 degrees. Jersey City is at 76 degrees. Trenton is at 75 degrees. Atlantic City is at 65 degrees. Lakewood Township is at 73 degrees. New Brunswick is at 75 degrees. Paterson is at 76 degrees. Edison is at 76 degrees. New Jersey is sitting pretty right now in the mid-70s. Enjoy it while it lasts, because post-Easter, that cold front is going to bring a significant cool down. In Maryland and Delaware, Baltimore is at 79 degrees. Annapolis is at 79 degrees. Bethesda is at 83 degrees. Frederick is at 75 degrees. Dover, Delaware is at 75 degrees. Wilmington, Delaware is at 76 degrees. Rehoboth Beach is at 74 degrees. The Mid-Atlantic is warm and comfortable right now, and Easter Sunday is going to be even warmer. In Pennsylvania, Philadelphia is at 76 degrees. Pittsburgh is at 74 degrees. Harrisburg is at 77 degrees. Allentown is at 75 degrees. Erie is at 63 degrees with overcast skies. State College is at 73 degrees. Scranton is at 73 degrees. Wilkes-Barre is at 73 degrees. Lancaster is at 75 degrees. York is at 75 degrees. Reading is at 76 degrees. Pennsylvania is mostly mild to warm right now, but Erie and the northwest corner are cloudier and cooler. Pittsburgh could see some storms Thursday evening as the squall line pushes through. In New York State, beyond the city, Albany is at 63 degrees with thunderstorms and fog. Syracuse is at 62 degrees with light rain and fog. Rochester is at 59 degrees with light rain. Buffalo is at 57 degrees with light rain and fog. Binghamton is at 55 degrees with fog. Ithaca is at 58 degrees with fog. Utica is at 62 degrees with light rain and fog. Poughkeepsie is at 75 degrees. Saratoga Springs is at 63 degrees with heavy rain. Schenectady is at 63 degrees with heavy rain. Upstate New York is getting hammered right now with rain, thunderstorms, and fog. These are gusty storms, but not severe in the same way the plains storms will be. Still, if you are in upstate New York, be careful on the roads tonight. In West Virginia and Kentucky, Charleston, West Virginia is at 78 degrees with passing clouds. Morgantown is at 77 degrees. Huntington is at 81 degrees. Lexington, Kentucky is at 73 degrees. Louisville is at 78 degrees. Bowling Green is at 78 degrees. Frankfurt is at 73 degrees. Owensboro is at 78 degrees. Paducah is at 78 degrees. Both states are in the warm sector right now with temperatures running well above normal. As the front moves through Thursday, you could see some strong storms, particularly in the evening hours. A quick look at Arizona and New Mexico. Phoenix is at 90 degrees, Tucson is at 85 degrees, Flagstaff is at 52 degrees, Sedona is at 63 degrees, Prescott is at 64 degrees, Albuquerque is at 73 degrees, Santa Fe is at 67 degrees, Las Cruces is at 82 degrees, Roswell is at 85 degrees. The desert Southwest is running hot. Phoenix at 90 degrees on the last day of March is above normal, and the heat dome that is going to rebuild over the west later next week could push temperatures even higher. And finally, let me mention a few more cities I know have loyal viewers. Savannah, Georgia is at 69 degrees. Greenville, North Carolina is at 73 degrees. Ocala, Florida is at 77 degrees, Daytona Beach is at 72 degrees, Key West is at 78 degrees, Lakeland, Florida is at 75 degrees, Anchorage, Alaska is at 32 degrees and sunny, Honolulu, Hawaii is at 78 degrees with passing clouds. Now I want to mention one more thing about the ENSO situation because it is going to have a huge impact on the pattern going forward. The El Nino Southern Oscillation models are being updated on Wednesday. If, as current forecasts suggest, we are heading into a strengthening El Nino, that changes the calculus for the rest of the spring and into summer. El Nino patterns tend to enhance the subtropical jet stream, which pushes more storm systems into the southern United States. That means more moisture, more severe weather potential, and a more active storm season overall. If the models confirm a strengthening El Nino on Wednesday, we could be looking at an above-average severe weather season that extends well into May and June. I am going to break down those model updates as soon as they are released, so make sure you catch that video on Wednesday evening. Now, I want to wrap up with something important. I mentioned at the top of this video that this is going to be one of the most active weather weeks of the year, and I stand by that. 3 consecutive days of severe weather potential, a major snowstorm in the northern plains, significant mountain snow in the west, and a massive temperature swing from coast to coast. That is an extraordinary amount of dynamic weather happening simultaneously. But I want to be clear, this is not about being scared. This is about being prepared. The vast majority of people in the threat zones are going to be absolutely fine as long as they have a plan and they stay aware of the conditions. The people who get hurt in these events are almost always the people who were not paying attention, who did not hear the warnings, or who did not take them seriously. So here is what I want you to do. If you are in any of the threat zones I mentioned, make sure you have multiple ways to receive warnings. A weather radio is the gold standard because it works even when the power goes out and even when cell towers are overwhelmed. Make sure your phone alerts are turned on. Know where you would take shelter in your home. Interior rooms on the lowest floor, away from windows. If you live in a mobile home, identify a nearby sturdy structure where you can take shelter. And talk to your family tonight about what the plan is. Make sure everyone knows what to do. For those of you who are going to be traveling this week, whether you are driving through the plains, flying through the Midwest, or heading to the mountains, check the forecast before you leave and be prepared for delays. This storm system is going to disrupt travel across a huge portion of the country. Now, here is your teaser for what is coming next. On Wednesday evening, the ENSO models are going to be released. ENSO stands for El Nino Southern Oscillation, and it is one of the most important climate drivers on the planet. Current forecasts are calling for a strengthening El Nino, and if that trend continues, it is going to have massive implications for the rest of the spring and into summer. More severe weather, more moisture, more heat. We are going to break down those model updates as soon as they come out, so make sure you do not miss that. Also, I am going to be tracking these storms in real time over the next few days. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday are all going to be intense days, and I am going to have updates as the storms develop. If you want to stay ahead of the weather, you know what to do. Make sure you are subscribed and that your notifications are turned on so you do not miss a single update. One more time, drop your city and state in the comments below. I want to know where you are watching from. And if I did not mention your city in this video, let me know and I will make sure to include it in the next forecast update. Your location matters, your safety matters, and I am going to keep tracking this for you every single day. Before I go, let me give you the silver lining. After all this severe weather, after all the snow, after all the temperature swings, the models are actually showing a signal for a really nice stretch of weather heading into early next week. Fort Smith, Arkansas, Springfield, Missouri, all across Kansas, Monday into Tuesday is looking like a perfect spring day. So if you can make it through the dangerous weather this week, there is calm and beautiful weather waiting on the other side. Hang in there. That is everything for now. Stay safe, stay aware, and I will see you in the next update. There is a lot more coming. And one more thing before you go. I want to give you a quick breakdown of what to expect day by day for the rest of this week so you can plan accordingly. Tonight, Monday evening, the atmosphere is already showing signs of instability across parts of the Ohio Valley and the Southeast. Some scattered thunderstorms are already moving through parts of Alabama, Georgia, and upstate New York. These storms are not severe in the traditional sense, but they are a sign that the atmosphere is primed and ready. Think of tonight as the appetizer. The main course starts tomorrow, Tuesday, today. Temperatures are climbing across the southern plains. That Gulf moisture plume is surging northward. Dew points are rising. The dry line is beginning to sharpen across West Texas. Everything is setting the stage for tomorrow's outbreak. If you are in the Wednesday threat zone, today is your preparation day. Charge your devices, check your weather radio batteries, review your severe weather plan with your family, know where your safe room is. Wednesday, April 1st. This is day one of the severe weather outbreak. Enhanced risk across the southern and central plains. Storms fire between 4 and 7 in the evening. The most dangerous period is after dark. Tornadoes, giant hail, damaging winds. Flash flooding possible in drought areas. If you are in the threat zone, stay off the roads after dark if possible. Thursday, April 2nd. The severe weather threat shifts to the Midwest. Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin. Squall line during the afternoon and evening. Damaging winds are the primary threat, with large hail and a few tornadoes also possible. The northern plains and upper Midwest deal with heavy snow and ice. Friday, April 3rd, outbreak potential. The most dangerous day of the week. New upper-level wave drives into the south-central United States. Explosive thunderstorm development Friday afternoon and evening. Cape values above 3,000 joules per kilogram. Negative tilt trough turbocharging the wind shear. Multiple supercells possible. Strong tornadoes, giant hail, destructive winds. The threat zone extends from Oklahoma through Kansas, Iowa, and northwest Missouri, with storms also possible across Texas and Arkansas. Saturday and Sunday, April 4th and 5th. The severe weather threat diminishes as the system pushes east. Easter Sunday brings warm temperatures to the northeast, 20 to 25 degrees above normal. The west continues to see mountain snow tapering off. Monday and Tuesday, April 6th and 7th. The cold front slams through the east coast. Temperatures crash. Arctic air pushes south. Meanwhile, the heat dome rebuilds over the west coast. That is the roadmap for the week. You now know exactly what is coming, when it is coming, and where it is going to hit. Knowledge is your best defense against severe weather. The storms do not care if you are watching or not. They are coming either way. But the people who are informed, the people who are prepared, those are the people who come through safely. Drop your city and state in the comments. Share this with anyone you know who lives in the threat zone.